Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all in Software Engineering Concepts course. Today we will learn the concept of use cases. In this regard, the agenda point to which we will cover this topic are what and why use cases, various representation of use cases, the important steps involved while developing use cases, and we will sum up this concept with a specific example and future activity. So let's start with what and why use cases. In fact, in real life, when we want to develop something for someone, we definitely need their requirements. We need to know their requirements. In case of software engineering, to develop a specific software for someone, it is very important to know their requirement. So in requirement engineering, when we gather requirement from a user, we define these requirements from end user point of view, and use case is to document, to represent these requirements. So let's see what is a use case. A use case tells a story about how an end user interact with the system, under specific set of circumstances. So this is very important when we get a specific requirement about a system. It is important to know how user look into that particular requirement. So defining requirements from user point of view is very important. Like how a user intend to interact with the system in a specific case, in a specific function, in a specific requirement. How a user want a particular requirement. So these use cases in fact represent user requirements from user point of view. In software engineering, we have different kind of representations for use cases. Like we can define these use cases in a narrative text. You can see in the first point, in narrative text. Next, we can define these use cases in diagrammatic form. We can define these use cases in fully dressed use cases format. So these are different kind of representation that software engineering offer to represent the use cases. Whatever the form of use cases, it is very important to see or to look into the user requirement from their point of view. So we start with developing a use case in case of diagrammatic form, that is one of the simplest form. The first step in writing a use case is to know about the actors of the system, to define the actors of the system. We may have various actors for a particular system. For instance, in case of CU Online, faculty is an actor, student is an actor, admin is an actor. So these are different kind of actors. So let's see what are actors. Anything that communicates with the system or product and that is external to the system itself is called actor. Means the first important thing, anything outside the system that interact with the system to get some service or to provide some service to the system is called an actor. So who are outside the system? Who may interact with the system either to get service or functionality from the system or to provide service to the system? These can be people, like already I have discussed about the actors of CU Online, faculty, students, admin. All these are people who are external to the system and may interact with the system to get services or to provide services to the system. It can be device as well. anything outside the system that interact with the system to provide functionality or to get functionality, maybe an actor. And actor can also be in the form of software. We can see these type of actors in detail in upcoming slides. First of all, we will discuss the types of actors. We have two types of actors. Number one, primary actor, and number two is the secondary actor. Okay, let me repeat the statement I quoted in last slide. Anything that interact with the system and external to the system to get services or to provide services to the system. So, the stakeholders are actors that calls on the system to get one of its service, to get something from the service, to get some functionality from the system. These are called primary actors. And the actors, those who provide services to the system, are called secondary actors. So, at this stage, we should be very much clear. In first step, it is important to know all kind of actors, and in second stage, it is very important to identify the primary actor and secondary actors. Let me repeat. The primary actors are those actors which interact with the system to get services from the system. And the secondary actors are those actors which interact with the system to provide service to the system. Okay, now talk about the diagrammatic form, how to develop a use case. Now we have clear concept, what and why are use cases, what are important steps. In first step, we have learned that it is important to know about actor and their different types. Now we try to learn developing use cases, specifically their representation in diagrammatic form. So software engineering provides us unified modeling language to represent use cases in diagrammatic form. To define or to represent use case using UML, we have different kind of symbols or different kind of notations. Let us discuss these notations and these symbols one by one. First of all, we have a symbol for system to represent a specific use case in diagrammatic form. Like you can see here, this is a symbol of system to represent a use case. It is important to specify the name of system. You are specifying, you are targeting the system that is under study. The next symbol is the symbol for actor. The actor is anything external to the system and interact with system to get services or to provide service to the system. It is important to specify the name or role of actor. Like in case of CU Online, you can write student as an actor, you can write admin as an actor, you can write teacher as an actor. Next is use case. In order to represent a specific use case, specific interaction scenario of user with the system, we use an oval symbol and undirected line from an actor to the use case. And one important thing, you will see in oval symbol there is action class. You have to specify the action the actor interact with system to perform. Okay. Now we look into these different symbols in detail through an example and develop a specific use case. For instance, we have example of CU Online. So in this specific case, if we talk about a system, the system is See You Online. You can see a rectangle. The name of system See You Online on the top of the rectangle is written. The next comes actor. Here we have actor, teacher and admin. Like we are developing use cases for two kind of actors. For instance, teacher. Teacher interact with the system to upload quiz marks. This is an interaction scenario. This is an interaction situation in which a teacher interacts with the system. Means a teacher is getting a service or getting a functionality from a system See You Online. Which functionality? To upload quiz marks. So you can see in case of teacher, a specific use case here is upload marks. Let's move ahead and see about the second actor, that is admin, and its use case, that is text marks to parents. Okay, now look into this specific representation of use case. And admin interact with See You Online system to text marks to the parents. Which marks? The marks already uploaded by a teacher on See You Online. And undirected lines are representing interaction or playing role of connector between actor and a specific use case. One important thing I haven't mentioned so far, it is about the actors which are other than people. Like it may be any kind of device, like it may be any kind of software. Software maybe have examples like databases, maybe application, program, interface. So look at the use case of admin, that is text marks to parents. You can see to text marks to the parents, either you need a GSM module to complete this functionality, or you need some third-party text message services to complete this functionality. It means that particular use case is incomplete unless the system gets some services from third-party API or from GSM module. So look at this another actor, that is third-party text service API. In fact, what this actor is doing, this actor is in fact providing services to See You Online. For what? To text marks to the parents. So you can see we may have actors other than people actor. Another important to mention here, that why did I place the third party text service API on the right side of the rectangle, on the right side of See You Online, while other two actors, teacher and admins, on left side of the system symbol in representation. It is important to mention here that the primary actors are usually represented on the left hand side of system as per UML convention, and the secondary actors means those who are providing services to the system are specified, are represented on the right hand side of See You Online. I hope through this example you can easily understand, after getting the requirement from end user, how we can those requirement, how we can define those requirement or represent those requirement form of use cases. So I expect an activity, I expect an assignment from you people to develop a use case diagram. Like, let me go back on this slide. It is important to mention here that in this specific diagram you can see this specific oval symbol is a use case. This specific symbol is a use case. And when we talk about this complete diagram, this is called use case diagram. So we have developed a use case diagram that represents different kind of use cases of different kind of actors. Okay, now you must be very much clear about your activity as assignment. Develop a use case diagram. So you are supposed to develop a complete use case diagram for what? The system is CU Online and actor is student. You know very well. How do you interact with the system? You interact with CU Online to get many services from this specific system. So visualize or interact with the system and get to know about all those services you used to get from CU Online and try to develop a use case diagram based on the concepts we discussed today. I hope you have learned all these concepts very well. This is all about use case concept. Thank you very much.